Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a Disney Cruise Line Q&A. If you haven't already, I highly recommend that you go and check out the plethora of other Disney cruise content that I have been posting over the past few weeks. My husband and I went on a Disney cruise last month in May for 5 days and 4 nights. And before we went on our cruise, I had a hard time finding information that felt really relevant to what I was looking for. And so I've tried to really put out as much information as I can about our experience in the hopes that if any of you are interested in going on a Disney cruise or you have one coming up, I hope that our experience and the videos that I've put up are helpful to you. So I will pop a link to the Disney Cruise playlist above. There's a comprehensive first-timers trip report, 5 daily vlogs. There is a video that is comparing and contrasting the pros and cons of Walt Disney World versus a Disney cruise based on, them both being Disney vacations. So there's lots of different content for you if you want to go check it out. So for the Q&A, I asked on Instagram, which is linked below. Make sure you go and follow me if anyone had any questions, and I got quite a few. So I won't be able to answer all of them, but I'll be able to answer some of them. Additionally, on one of my previous cruise videos, which was the comprehensive first-timers trip report, I asked if anybody had any questions there, and I pulled a few. One note before I start, if I have already answered the question extensively in a former video, in a video that I've previously uploaded, I'm not going to answer it here. And or if the answer is very easily available online. So like some people ask me about the pricing for cruises, but you can just go to disneycruise.com and price out a cruise for yourself. And so I'm not going to tell you all about that here because it's pretty easy to go find that. So let's jump right in. A question that I got several times from several different people was, what did I pack this time for the cruise that I would not pack again? So people were asking, how would I streamline my packing for the next time based on my experience this time? So if you didn't see it already, I put together a really fun pre-Disney cruise packing haul that I will link above if you want to go check it out, where I shared a whole bunch of different things that I packed to bring with us on our cruise based on recommendations that I had received from our We're Going on a Disney Cruise video, which I will also link above. And in that video, I asked if anyone had any suggestions. So I actually printed off the list of what I shared in the pre-Disney Cruise packing haul. So I'm just gonna go through and tell you the things that we did or didn't use. So all of the seasickness medication stayed packed away for our whole trip because neither of us experienced seasickness at all, which was a huge blessing. We're really thankful for that. So I would still bring it on future trips because you just never know, but we didn't use it at all on this trip. We did use the waterproof phone sleeves a whole lot. I loved those. We used our lanyards every single day. I absolutely loved our GoPro style camera. That was not actually a GoPro. It's like 50 bucks off Amazon. We loved it. Riley calls it the Faux Pro. We used the hand soap. We did not use, surprisingly, the travel cups. So many people said to make sure that you bring your own cups on the cruise because the cups provided are really small, and so you're gonna want to have your own. But I think mostly because our weather was pretty rainy, we weren't like super thirsty the way that we would have been if it had been hot. So we didn't use our water cups that we brought. And we also, because of that, didn't use the dish soap and the sponge that I brought to clean out those cups because we didn't use those. I totally used the laundry detergent, but not on the cruise. I used it a couple of days before when we were staying with my family for a wedding. A lot of people mentioned to bring a highlighter and post-it notes for communication with your stateroom host, the post-it notes, and to highlight on the navigator the things you wanted to do. We did not use either of those things at all. I totally used those grippy headbands. It is very windy on deck. The makeup that I bought for the trip, they were old favorites, so I totally used those. I brought a book with me, but I really didn't find that I had that much time to read it. I ended up just really enjoying doing the activities on the ship. Again, I think if it had been warmer and we had been able to just lay by the pool, I probably would have read more of my book, but because of the weather, I didn't. I bought those large plastic clips from the Dollar Tree to use as like chair towel clips, and I totally used them. We used those several times and they were awesome. We bought and brought bug spray, sea lice repellent, and sunscreen, and we used all 3 of those things. And we used the aloe vera as well for some sunburn. So we used probably about 50% of the things. Again, some of the things that we didn't use was probably because of the weather situation. It was just quite rainy for most of our trip. or at least a lot of our trip, and so that might have been kind of a piece of it. So I hope that was helpful for those of you who are asking what we did and did not use. A couple of people asked if I would explain more about the dining. So when you get on to the ship, right before you board, you receive what's called your Key to the World card. It's like a little credit card. It has your name on it. It has information about your cruise on it. And there are a series of letters in a row, and those represent the places that you're going for dinner. So on the Disney Dream, the ship that we were sailing on, there is Enchanted Garden, Royal Palace, and Animator's Palette. And so each night it either had an E for Enchanted Garden, an A for Animator's Palette, or an R for Royal Palace. And so when we got on, it said something like RAAE. That was exactly what it said. So that meant that the first night for dinner, we were meant to go to Royal Palace, and the middle 2 nights we were at Animator's Palette, and the last night we were at Enchanted Garden. So that's how dinner works. Then for breakfast, there's always a buffet. You can always go up to deck 11. There's a huge buffet. You could order room service for breakfast. It's a continental breakfast only for room service, so you can't get like scrambled eggs. You can get like pastries and bagels and things like that. And then you can also go to one of the restaurants, usually Royal Palace or Enchanted Garden, are open for breakfast. That was the case on our trip. And so that's that. Then for lunch, it's the same thing. Royal Palace or Enchanted Garden are open. You need to look on your navigator to see the times. It's usually a pretty short time, like maybe noon to 2. It's not like a super long lunch hour. And then also the buffet's open. And then for dinner, you go to whatever is on your Key to the World card, or you can go up to the buffet. So that's kind of the dining layout. There's also several little snack stations. You can go and get pastries in the coffee shop. Those are included. There's ice cream that's like unlimited. It's delicious. That's included. A lot of things like that. You will not be hungry. Additionally, people asked about how the wait staff rotated with you. Basically, not for breakfast or lunch. You got, for breakfast or lunch, if you went to a sit down, you just got whoever was assigned to your table. But for dinner, every night you had the same server and the same team of people. And so you get to know them. They're with you every night. They rotate with you as you go throughout the restaurants. I got some questions about tipping. So the deal is that while you are on the ship, the only thing that you're tipping cash for is room service. So if you order room service, it's customary to give the person who brings your food to you a few dollars to say thank you for bringing my room service. Other than that, you wait and tip at the very end. You tip your stateroom host at the very end, you tip your wait staff at the very end, you tip all those people at the very end of the cruise. So on the night before you disembark, you get some envelopes in your stateroom as well as a page of information about tipping. What you can do is either allow Disney to charge your credit card for the tips, or you can go and fill those envelopes with cash and then drop them off at the guest services desk, and they will distribute those cash envelopes for tipping. So you can do one or the other. We just had our credit card charged for tips because that seemed a lot easier to us, but if you're someone who prefers to live your life in cash, you could do that. So those were questions that were asked on my YouTube video. Now we're gonna bump over to Instagram. I forgot to mention at the beginning that as a rule, when I'm doing Q&As, I don't usually say the username because I end up wasting so much time stumbling over people's usernames, and it's just easier to just say the questions and move forward. And also sometimes people don't want you to share their username, and so it's a whole thing. It's just easier to just plow forward. So moving on to Instagram, someone said that she and her husband are huge Disney fans, and they've been wanting to do a Disney cruise, but were concerned that there wouldn't be enough to do as a couple with no kids. Would you say there were a plethora of options for adults? What were some of your favorite things to do on the ship? I would absolutely say there were a plethora of options for things to do as adults only. So many things to do. So many. First of all, Disney has all kinds of sections of the ship that are adult only. There are 2 gorgeous restaurants that are adults only. The spa is adults only. There is a variety of bars and kind of clubs all put together that make up this huge section of the ship that are all adults only. Up on the upper decks, there are pool areas, bars, and all kinds of things like that that are all adults only. I mean, it felt like half the ship was adults only. That's not true. But there were so many spaces that were adults only, which was fantastic because kids really don't bother me. Obviously, I'm getting on a Disney cruise. I know there are going to be kids on board. But it was really nice because there was so many more places and spaces that were just for adults than I thought there would be. So yes, there are so many things. Every night there's evening entertainment for just adults that we really enjoyed going to. Like I said, there's the bars and pubs are open. You can go and sit in those and have a drink and chat and meet other adults. There are drinking activities. What I mean by that is there's like a whiskey tasting, a beer tasting, a martini tasting, those kinds of things that you can sign up ahead of time, and those are all obviously adult only. So anyway, yes. There are so many adult only things. I was actually really blown away by how many options there were for adults. So yes, my answer is yes. Another person asked, was a 4-night, 5-day cruise too long or short? Definitely not too long, and it really wasn't too short. I definitely could have stayed on the ship for another 3, 4 days, 10 days. Like I could have been on the ship for a lot longer because we were enjoying ourselves so much. And we definitely did not get to do everything that we wanted to do while we were on board, but we did quite a lot. We got to eat at all of the restaurants. We got to eat at Remy one night. We really explored the entire ship. I felt like we got to see every deck. You know, it was great. Like I really do feel like we got to see and do most of what we wanted to do. Not all, but most. So I would say if you only have the time to do like what we did, a 5-day, 4-night cruise, it's worth the effort to get to the port and go on the cruise ship. We really enjoyed ourselves. The next time we would love to do a longer cruise, but if we couldn't, we would absolutely repeat this same length of time because we had such a nice time. 2 questions on here that I have already answered in my Disney Cruise First Timers Report video. One was, is a passport needed? And the second one is, what do you wish you had known before going on a cruise? So I will link that video above. You can go check that video out. Someone said, were you stuck on the ship with a bunch of loud, rowdy kids? No. We were not. Someone else asked, is there enough Disney things involved? I feel like Disney World in general, you're always surrounded by everything Disney. Did you ever feel the opposite of that or completely encumbered? I've never cruised. Okay, so Disney Cruise Line is different. I feel like the Disney is a lot more subtle, not all the time, but most of the day, most of the time on the ship, the Disney feeling is completely there, but all the touches are more subtle. You'll still see characters walking around, there's still princesses, there's still Disney music playing and that kind of thing. But as far as the environment, it's not like Disney World where there's like literally a you know, Cinderella castle in the dead center and there's things like that everywhere. It's a little bit more subtle. The touches are subtle. The hidden Mickeys are there, those kinds of things. But it definitely still felt Disney, which I loved. I felt like it was the perfect, the ship designers really perfectly walked the line between that Disney nostalgic and magic that we all love, while also making sure that it felt like a really high-class experience and there weren't just like giant cartoons everywhere. So I felt like it was a pretty perfect balance. Someone asked, did you have someone through Disney Cruise Line help you plan / give you ideas / choose reservations? I know you had dinner at Remy and different things at Castaway Key. How did you go about navigating all of those separate items? I did not. I just am a researcher and I did a whole bunch of research after we booked our cruise and figured out what we wanted to do and when. And then you just the same way that you make reservations on the Walt Disney World site, you go onto the cruise line site and you go ahead and choose your dining that you want to do. We booked late, so we didn't have as many options as someone would have if they had booked earlier. But we still had enough options that we were able to snag a Remy dinner reservation, and we also were able to book a few things on Castaway Key. So no one helped me do that, but it's really not that hard. You can totally do it. You just log onto your account and go in and kind of see the different options. You can read more about them. You can go search them on TripAdvisor and see what people are saying about them, and then you can book. Someone asked, what is the best time to arrive at the ship? How were the check-in lines? All of that. I was so nervous about checking on to the ship. I just didn't know what to expect at all. I had no idea what it was going to be like. I didn't know what security was going to be like. I didn't know what the parking lot was. I didn't know what anything was going to be like, and I just was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. But they made it so easy. It was great. So basically you are sent your port arrival time. So we were supposed to arrive at the port at like noon or 12:15, I think. I think that was our slot, between 12 and 12:15. So that is when we had to be at the port. And they do that to try to stagger people so that everyone doesn't arrive at one time. Once we arrived at the port, the porters took our luggage right away when we pulled into the parking lot, which was fantastic. And then we just parked our car, we walked over, we went through a quick security. It's much less involved than airport security. Then we went into the terminal, we checked in, and then we immediately boarded the ship. It was like seamless and easy as can be. The next question is, since this was your first cruise, did it meet or beat your expectations? It definitely beat my expectations. I knew I was going to enjoy a cruise because I love this cruise in particular, because we just love Disney, my husband and I do. And so we were like, well, we know we're gonna love it, but we absolutely adored it. Like, I was obsessed with it. I loved everything about cruising. I had never been on any cruise line before, and I just thought it was so much fun. It definitely beat my expectations. I was blown away by how much I deeply, deeply enjoyed the entire vacation. Another question about the adult thing. Trying to convince my fiance that a Disney cruise isn't just for kids. Did you and your husband ever feel like you were surrounded, which I think is what that previous question was getting at? As two adults, did you ever feel like there were enough grown-up things to do? Listen, if your fiance really doesn't like Disney, don't take him on a Disney cruise, because like I said, there are characters. At night there's like a Beauty and the Beast show, Animator's Palette, one of the restaurants is very, it's Disney. You're on a Disney cruise. So like, don't go with someone who hates Disney, they will not have fun. But if you're worried about it being really babyish and kiddie, it's not. It's just not. I mean, I really did not find that at all. I felt like the dining was very high class and really nice. Our stateroom had the most subtle touches of Disney ever. If you want to go watch that, I'll link that above, my stateroom tour. It's not like there's like giant Mickey heads and things, like it's not like that at all. It's very beautiful and subtle. There are certainly children on the ship, but the kids clubs are so fantastic that for a lot of the day, the ship is not overrun with kids. The kids are in the kids clubs with their counselors and their friends having a great time. I just did not feel like the ship was overrun with kids at all. I really did not feel like that at all. I felt like the kids that were on the ship were quite well behaved. Their parents were happy and they were happy, and so I felt like it was just, I genuinely did not feel like the ship was overrun with kids. There are kids on the ship, but I didn't feel like it was overrun by any means. Someone said that she and her husband have only been on 7-night cruises, but she wants to see if a 4-night cruise would be long enough because she wants to take her mom, who's anxious about cruising, and her mom likes the idea of a shorter cruise. Obviously 7 days is better than 4 days. Well, we had 5 days, 4 nights, which is what she said, 4-night. But like I said earlier, I really do think that it was enough time to get a taste. Maybe not the full experience, but totally to get a taste. And we definitely got into that relaxed state of being on a cruise on vacation. So it's really a personal preference. I just can't speak for you for what would work for your family, especially if you've been on longer cruises, then a 4-night might feel too short. But for us as first timers on a cruise, we really felt like it was a good amount of time. Again, we'd love to have gone longer, but for 4 nights, we felt like it was great. Someone said, was there anything that you wouldn't do again or you didn't particularly care for? Also, did you get dizzy? I never got dizzy while we were on board. The only thing on the whole cruise that I didn't like was that the very first moment on the ship, after we walked around for a minute, we headed up to get lunch at Cabanas. Now, always one of the table service restaurants are open. So in our case, Enchanted Garden was open, but a lot of people don't know that. So everyone goes and stampedes through Cabanas, which is the buffet. But I knew that Enchanted Garden was open, but by the time we got there, apparently a lot of other people knew too, because it was at capacity and we were not able to go in. So because of that, we had to go to the buffet. And the buffet, like, it's the first moment. Everyone's been up all morning. Some families have driven in that morning. People have been flying the night before. Everyone's super frazzled. No one has their stateroom yet, so no one's like settled yet. And it was, for us, pouring down rain, and it was chaos. It was absolute craziness. There were just so many people everywhere. That was the only time on the whole cruise where I was like, oh my gosh. And it was the very first thing, so I was thinking that that was how it was going to be for the rest of the cruise. But the reality was that everyone on the whole cruise, so 4,000 guests, were on the exact same timetable. Everyone had just gotten on the ship and everyone was heading to lunch at the buffet, which is called Cabanas. So that was the only thing. So in the future, I would probably, I don't know how I would handle that differently. I would try to get an earlier arrival time and try to get into the table service restaurant, because I feel like that would just be such a better experience and so much less chaotic. Or at least if I had to go up to the buffet again, I would at least know what to expect. And or if it wasn't pouring down rain, then hopefully it would feel less crowded anyway, because some people could sit outside. So that was the only thing on the whole cruise that I really was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Because it was so crazy. But there were a few factors that played into that. Someone said, did it even feel like you were on water? Although we didn't get seasickness, yeah, it totally felt like we were on water. You could feel a slight rocking of the ship when we were moving. It was funny, a few nights we were like in the show, and so there's like no windows, you can't see if, you know, you're cruising or not, but you would just start to feel a slight rocking and we would know that we were cruising at that time. So I found it to be incredibly soothing. It wasn't like we were being thrown side to side across the boat. It's a very, very slight motion. Like when we were sitting at dinner one night, we had olive oil to dip our bread in, and it was sitting in a little dish, and you could just see the olive oil just slightly shifting as the boat was moving. Yes, you could feel that you were cruising. You could feel that you weren't just standing on land, but to me, it definitely did not make me dizzy. It didn't make me sick, and it was not like we were thrashing back and forth. And we even had some, you know, we hit some thunderstorms, so we definitely had some like rougher seas, and even then, I found it really soothing. Like when I would get in bed at night and the ship would be rocking a little bit, it like rocked me right to sleep. Someone said, if you could do a Disney cruise to explore a different country, which one would you and Riley choose? Okay, I've been looking at the European itineraries for the Disney Cruise Line, just like obsessing over them. They're so amazing. There's so many amazing ones. I would literally go on any of them, but there are a few that go around like Norway and Sweden that I would love to do because they look insanely beautiful. So that would be my pick right now, but honestly, I would go on any of them. Someone said, what did you do off camera for fun? Because I vlogged the trip. We relaxed. That is what we did. We laid around, we laughed, we sat up on the decks and watched as we cruised. We just relaxed. It was so lovely. It was so lovely. That is what we did. We took a nap like a couple of days. We would just stand on our veranda and watch the sunset and just like enjoy it. It was so lovely. Relax. That is what we did most of the time. Someone said, was the ship quite loud and noisy with families, or did you find some nice chilled out places away from the loudness? Certainly during the dinner hours, so from between like 5:30 and maybe 9 p.m. when everyone's coming to dinner, the atrium area of the ship was quite bustling, but I loved it. There was always live music, so there was like a live violinist, there was a pianist, there were singers, and it was just like gorgeous music that was just like floating throughout the atrium, throughout the ship. And then there were families all around, and kids were taking pictures and doing this and that. So certainly it was not quiet during that time. And then like up on the pool deck during the day, there's lots of people, lots of families, kids swimming, playing. So it's definitely not quiet there. But at any time, we could go back to our stateroom and it was quiet. At any time, we could go to the adults only bar and it was quiet. At any time, we could go up to the adults only section where there were like couches and comfortable chairs, and it was completely quiet. So there were always opportunities to get away from the noise. I'm really, really sensitive to noise, and I loved that we could be a part of it and we could listen to all the music and the live music and all of that. And then when we were kind of done with all of that, we could just go be somewhere that was quieter. So there were loud times and quiet times, but you could be in either one. Someone asked, did you have magic bands? No, your key to the world card is like your magic band. There are rumors, the kids get magic bands. There are rumors that the cruise line's gonna start using magic bands, but they have not yet. I'm continuing to get a lot of questions about pricing as I'm scrolling through here. I really just recommend going to the Disney Cruise website and finding an itinerary that you would be interested in and pricing it out for your family. It's really hard for me to know because it just depends on the time of year, and it depends on how many people and where you're going and what kind of stateroom you have. So I really can't give pricing information and have it be accurate. Someone said, was the coffee in Cove Cafe better than the other coffee on the ship? So the coffee in Cove Cafe is an upcharge. It's not included. And so it's like this little coffee house that you go into, and just like you would at Starbucks or Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf or any other coffee shop, you go in, you pay your money, and you get the coffee. Whereas everywhere else on the ship, there are big carafes of Joffrey's coffee, and which I love Joffrey's coffee, and it's just hot coffee, and it's included with the price of your trip. Because I love Joffrey's coffee, I don't mind the hot coffee on the ship, but certainly the coffee in Cove Cafe is better. I mean, it's like more special, and they did the cold brew, if you saw on our vlog, and it was like this extensive special system that they did, and my husband loves cold brew coffee, so he was really excited about that. And they had little fancy lattes and mochas and things like that. So It kind of depends on your preference. If you just like plain hot coffee, then you'll love what's on the rest of the ship. But if you like a latte or a cappuccino, or you like cold brew or a frappuccino type of thing, like anything like that, Cove Cafe is great. Someone said, I love this question, did you ever feel a little panicked that you were surrounded by water and so far from land? Serious question. And then she put the laughing face. Okay, that is such a good question, because before I left for this trip, I was worried, like not actively worried, but I had wondered a few times, like, I wonder how this is gonna be. I grew up in Maryland, and my grandfather has a fishing boat, and we used to spend a whole lot of time on it, out on the Chesapeake Bay in the summer months. And so I'm used to being on a boat and not being on land, in terms of like, we would go out for like 8 hours at a day or whatever. But obviously being out for 8 hours on a small fishing boat is like completely different than being on a cruise ship for 5 days straight. So I was definitely wondering how it was going to be. It did not make me feel panicked at all. It did not make me feel panicked at all. I think part of that is like, on the first day we were docked at Port Canaveral, and then we started cruising. Then we woke up the second morning and we were docked in Nassau, so you could see land. Then the third morning we were docked at Castaway Key, which we couldn't get off because of the weather. Then the fourth day we were back at Castaway Key and we could get off. And then the fifth day we were back at Port Canaveral. So we saw land like every single day, but I just was so happy and so comfortable on the ship that even if we had had true days at sea, if we had gone on a 7-day cruise, let's say, and we had had 2 true days at sea where we did not see land at all, it would not have made me feel panicked. It just would not have made me feel panicked. Again, that's so personal. It really depends on who you are and what makes you feel panicked or not. But I could have lived on that ship for a long time longer. I was so happy to be on it. So I definitely did not feel panicked being surrounded by water, although I know what you mean. Also, the water's so beautiful, and like just watching the water glisten in the sun, and I just loved it. I thought it was so gorgeous. It didn't make me feel panicked at all. Someone asked if Disney Cruise Line will do an intensive allergy cleaning. I have no idea, but I'm certain that you could call them on their 1-800 number and ask if they would do it. Knowing Disney, I think they probably would, but I don't know. Someone said, is there an off season to cruise when the cost is lower? Yes. We were looking to do this exact same cruise, exact same itinerary, exact same everything in July for our anniversary, and it was over $1,000 more expensive than doing it when we did it in May. So you just gotta check and see, because you can definitely save some money if your dates are flexible. Okay, I'm just gonna do a couple more questions. Someone said, what items did you take with you when you went to port on Castaway Key Day? I wore my bathing suit with like a cover up to get off the ship. I brought a whole bunch of sunscreen and bug spray and sea lice lotion, which I talk about in that packing video that I talked about. I brought an extra t-shirt and an extra pair of shorts. I brought my sunglasses. I brought my faux pro camera, my fake GoPro camera. This was all in like a big bag. I brought a book to read. I took my phone in those phone cases that I talked about in my packing vlog. I also took the camera I'm filming on now, my vlogging camera. I took that. I think that's about it. And they hand you towels as you're getting off the ship to use for the day. So I also took a towel, but I didn't bring a towel with me. They gave it to me. Someone said, what was their process disembarking the ship? On past cruises, I found it to be quite chaotic. I can't compare it because I've never been on another cruise, but it was not chaotic at all to me. It felt very, very streamlined and organized. So the night before, we got luggage tags to put on our luggage, and any luggage that we wanted someone else to take off the ship for us, we had to put outside of our stateroom by I think 10 p.m. with those special luggage tags on them, knowing that we wouldn't have that luggage until the following day after we disembarked. So you had to make sure that you had everything that you needed for that night and the following morning, so like pajamas, your toothbrush, things like that, clothes for the next day with you. So we did that. So we kept our 2 small carry-on suitcases with us, and our 2 huge ones we put outside, and they took them off the ship for us. Then they gave us a time and a place to be for breakfast. So we were at Enchanted Garden at 8 a.m. I think, or 8:30, pretty early, 8:15 maybe. Anyway, we got there early in the morning and we ate our last breakfast. Right after that was over, we grabbed our carry-ons, which we had brought with us to breakfast, and we got in a line in the atrium area and we disembarked from the ship. Then we had to go through customs, which between the time when you get off the ship and you go through customs, there are all the suitcases are set up, and they, like, our suitcase had Daisy on it, and then there's like a big, like the character Daisy on the wall in this customs area, and so you just go over and your suitcases are right there. It was really easy. Get in line, go through customs. It took 1 second. It was super fast, and then you're officially off. And so then you have all of your suitcases and all of your things, and we just walked right over to the parking terminal. I found it to be very, very, very streamlined. We were off the ship by 9 something, like really quite easy and streamlined. Someone said, this is more of a general / relationship Disney question. Were you and your husband both super into Disney before you met, or did one of you get the other on board, so to speak? I would be all about a Disney vacation or a cruise, but my husband is not into it at all. Did your interests just align naturally? Neither of us were actually into Disney when we met. We both liked Disney movies and enjoyed, you know, we both liked Disney from childhood, things like that, but I had been to Disney World a couple of times, only once with my family, and then I went once with my cousin for a few days. And Riley had been to Disneyland for 1 day, and it was the busiest day in park history. So he loved it, but it was chaotic. So neither of us, we both liked those experiences, but we didn't have like a huge whatever. Well, as time went on, we really were like, we really want to go. Let's go to Disney World. Let's see what it's like. We had heard that, you know, this, that, and the other. And so we decided to go. We just fell in love with it together. We both love it like equally. Like just yesterday I came home and Riley, one of my sweet subscribers, sent to my P.O. box this awesome Haunted Mansion hitchhiking ghost decal, and like he came home from work and it's a pretty big decal, and he has it on square on the back of his work laptop, which cracked me up. It's like a family business, so it's not like he's not in like a corporate job with the hitchhiking ghosts, although I would not put it past him. So he just loves it. Like he loves it just as much as I do. We both, for different reasons, love it. I really like the research and the planning, and then I love going, and that there's so many things and it's all easy to get around and all these things. And he just loves that it's so much fun. Like he just thinks it's so much fun. He loves we just both love it. So I don't know, I guess our interests just align naturally. If you watch my vlogs or if you followed along with my blog or whatever, we're really different. Like our personalities are really different, and at large, our interests are really different. But this is one thing that we both just really, really love and both enjoy so, so much. And so that's part of the reason why Disney cruises and a Disney cruise and Disney vacations have been a part of our yearly rhythm, because we both walk away feeling very fulfilled and satisfied. I'm gonna call that a day and end on that question because this video is long enough. Thank you so much if you left me a question on my Instagram. Like I said, make sure you go and follow me. I post stuff about Disney, and I also post lifestyle things. I post a lot of recipes, things like that. So go follow me. I'm at Blair Blogs on Instagram, and also make sure to check out my Etsy shop. I have a whole bunch of different Disney designs in my Etsy shop. I sell t-shirts, tanks, totes, and things like that in unisex sizes, women's sizes, and children's sizes. So I will leave a link to that below if you want to go check it out. Thanks so much for watching. I would appreciate a thumbs up, and make sure to subscribe to this video if you enjoyed it. If you are heading on a Disney cruise soon, I'm so excited for you. I hope you have the best time. We certainly did. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.